Boom, boom, boom. Coming back at it again. How you doing, brother?
Man, another productive Monday, my brother. How about you?
Same. Banging phones all day long. So I'm really excited for us to be able to hop into this episode of the asset class. Guys, this is my partner, my dude, A1 Day One, Jesse. He's one of the best business coaches in the world. When you really want to get into your KPIs, when you want to get into your SOPs, when you want to learn how to communicate better so you can extract more enterprise value from your number one asset being that business, there's no one better to work with than Jesse, CEO, visionary of Bullseye.
And my man Earl, bro, so it's one thing to be able to generate revenue, which, that's what we focus on in Bullseye Consulting, like making that standard. But when you generating that revenue and the bottom line is getting cleaner and cleaner, Uncle Sam got something to say about that, which is what makes our partnership that much more powerful. Because if it's taking some of that profit and establishing a trust infrastructure to give yourself some more asset protection, or if it's establishing an insurance policy so that you got your own little bank, or if it's implementing a specific tax strategy to proactively reduce that tax liability up front. It's the whole package of wealth building that happens after building a cash flowing, scalable, sustainable business enterprise that has appreciating market value. It's levels to it.
There's levels to this.
Those are the pieces my man Earl handles. So, yeah.
I appreciate you. Guys, we got so much to talk about today on this episode of the Asset Class where we give you real actionable information. So I'm going to go ahead and break down a disclaimer so we can hop right into it. Guys, this is going to be used for educational purposes. We highly encourage you to work with licensed professionals, bonded in cases where they need be, with a track record of success. But we also encourage you to do your own research, because as you learn more, each one, reach one, teach one, because that's how we learn and grow as a community. Jesse, what's the word, man? What's going on?
Man, so as we had spoken about, given that I negotiated that contract, today was day one of it's basically just learning how they communicate within their company, because again, the principles of business are the principles of business across the board. It's just a matter of how it ends up getting applied and how it's communicated. So today was day one of just learning how their lingo and how they package everything. And I tell you, it's refreshing, because going over all of the details of what it takes to actually build market enterprise into a business measured through the balance sheet. We spent a good portion talking about the balance sheet and understanding those ratios and how those ratios can be controlled with intentional strategy, and those ratios tied to the value of the company at large. So, from talking about those components to really understanding like the Simon Sinek inspired why, the what and the how, and how all of that ties together. It was just refreshing to be having the conversation about how all of that stuff ties together, because obviously I've been having the conversations with my clients every week, but we're talking about the things that are happening in their business. This is the looking at business at large conversation. So when I think about, steel being sharpened, that's just what I was thinking today as I'm with this team of folks. You know what I mean? Like, I'm obviously the youngest one in the group, like always, the only black person, like always. Like, that's what my career has always been, and it's the same thing now. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, one of the guys looked like 70 or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, and he know his stuff. You know, the questions that he asks, because just like we've spoken about, Earl, you can't ask certain questions if you don't have certain experience.
That's
So
right.
the scale of questions that he was asking, like, you can tell, like, he knows it. He been doing it for a very, very long time. But that just goes to show, like, these are the people that are like my peers. So it's it's just, again, exciting to understand what this is getting ready to look like, to be having conversations with folks that do this every day. So the sharpening of the Ginsu blade that ensues as a result of it, like, bruh.
Yo, that's cold, man. That it's just like sparring in martial arts. You can only get so good to a point until you have to fight someone else who's better than you, or at least at your same level, and then you're zigzagging both back and forth. You got a Vegeta Goku type of relationship where you guys are both working off of each other. So that's that's phenomenal. And like you said, man, the the quality of questions that someone asks tells you so much. Whether you're dating, or like my guy Tony Robbins likes to say, the quality of a person's life is a direct correlation to the quality of questions that they ask. There's this whole story he has where he's walking down the street and there's a strange looking guy, and the guy goes, "Can I have a quarter?" And the guy has like a crazy voice. And he's like, "A quarter, huh?" And the guy's like, "Yes, I trouble you only for a quarter?" And he's just like, "Well, unfortunately, I don't have any quarters. But if you had asked me for some money to help you, I would have gave you some." And he just pulls out a wad of, thousands of dollars, and he shows the guy, and he's like, "Remember, the quality of questions that you ask determines your life." And the guy just looked at him walk away, and then he turned back around and gave the guy the money. But he wanted him to sit there and ponder on it. I'm telling you, man, the way people ask questions reveals their character.
And their experience, because it's
Uh-huh.
when it comes to actual behavioral change, people are naturally resistant to change. And statements are the quickest way to trigger a change defense wall that the person doesn't even recognize. So, in other words, when I come in, if I come in and I say, you need to have your accounting, your books clean so that you know what is financially being produced in your business. That's a fact. And it applies to every business owner. But if I come in and I just say that, then they likely thinking, and who the hell are you to tell me what I need to be doing in my business? Like, how
Mm-hmm.
about you mind yours? That's the defensive barrier that automatically shoots up. So asking the right question to get them to recognize, yes, I do actually need to have accurate accounting so that I know what's going on in my business in real time and I can make informed decisions accordingly. I do actually need to do that. The right question gets them to arrive at that conclusion on their own, as opposed to that defensive wall being shot up of, who the hell you think you is?
Mm-hmm. I love that you opened up talking about Simon Sinek, because that's one of my favorite thought leaders. Man, I watched his TED Talk so many times on Start With Why. The little grainy, looks like they shot that thing with a potato. I'm like, it's a whole 17 pixels. But the message came through so clear to me that through his hypothesis, through his studies of watching how Martin Luther King talked, how other very, very influential leaders spoke to people and why it made them even more effective. It's so true. Most people get what's all day long. So it just, their brain just turns off if you just try to give them a what, like, do this, do that. If we start with why, it does some sort of magic where it goes around the ego, because we got to remember, our ego is not our amigo. And at the end of the day, our ego is trying to keep us here. It's trying to keep us homeostatic, trying to keep you in one place. So we always use, well, I can't say we always, but commonly in America, we look at ego as something that is elevating the person past where they actually are, and we use it synonymous with arrogance, but that's not what it is. Your ego wants to keep you in a place where you are safe, and safety is not growth. And if you're not growing, you're dying. So we got to escape that ego. And more so when you're working in a consulting space like Jesse is, or like I am when I'm working with businesses, an advisory space, you have to get around the client's ego so you can actually help them. So starting off with the why, like, I am so passionate about helping businesses, and I love what you are doing right now. You're helping people with their mental health. That is so needed in today's day and age because you are a staple of the community and healthy communities. You are a staple of strong economies because strong minds come with strong ideas. And to make sure that we keep going forward, we have to change your tax strategy. We have to completely gut what you are doing because what got you here is not going to get you there. Don't you agree? That is
100%.
that is so different. I literally just had that conversation with a potential client, and they're just like, "Yes, yes, I agree." Versus them saying, "Man, your taxes is jacked up. This isn't gonna work. You need to do something new." They're gonna, oh, ah. I've come to even learn, even when they've had a CPA that did a bad job, to never call the past CPA or the past tax preparer, the past EA, whoever it was, a bad person, because they're still going, well, oh, they didn't do a bad job. Instead, I'm like, hey, you're at a point where you outgrew them. Congratulations, you have a growing, thriving business. So since you're growing now, there's going to be some growing pains because we're going to do some new things here.
100%. So the last thing I want to share about the class today, the instructor, every now and again, somebody, they just come with the bars, and he did. So he said, revenue is for vanity, profit is for sanity, and cash is king. And I'm like, bruh, because when, and I've dealt with that here in Colorado, and I've dealt with that here specifically, where, you meet someone that had the biggest revenue performing year in their business's existence, where they made $2.1 million. And that's like a vanity play, where it's like, bro, I went from riding dirty to making over $2 million in my business. That's a vanity metric, until you look and see that there was 2.3 that was spent. So now the reality is you've created a $200,000 liability. And it's like all of the stress that come along with that, because we can't even, we're not even talking about quantifying the quality of life issues that follows that $200,000 loss. So that's a whole thing. So the profit is that's the sanity check, but ultimately how much cash that you're able to generate and what your cash flow look like from when you are invoicing and collecting to when you're paying out to vendors, and what does that balance look like? Because how well that you're leveraging that, it makes all of the difference in the world. They talked about Amazon today, where Amazon has like a perfectly brilliant business model where the inventory that they are storing, it's from third-party vendors that they're charging to store this stuff. Like they don't have to hold no inventory cost, no nothing. And when someone places an order, they immediately render payment. So there are no payment terms, no extended payment terms. So they're immediately getting paid. They're holding no inventory liability because all of that is contracted out. And it's brilliant. It's absolute brilliant. And
they
that's
set
why.
the price. And so many other things. I can't tell you how many people try to sell me a Amazon business, a drop shipping business. Like, oh, you do M&A stuff, you should buy this. I'm like, well, here's why this is a terrible business for me to buy. It is centric to one hub, and that's Amazon. If you are in the rarity where you find a great product to sell, they're going to copy that product. And they also control your price. And they also control my profit range. That's not great for me when I have another company that is controlling all of my metrics. But if I'm Amazon, it's the bomb.com. And then some. I get to profit off of your ingenuity and I get to charge you while it happens.
So kind of keeping on pace with what's going on in the world, because again, for those of us that are serious about building generational wealth throughout all that's going on in the world, one must be paying attention to what's going on in the world in order to stay ready. As I
Hmm.
was looking at everything that's going on in the economy, when I think about where I am in my journey of Bullseye Consulting and where the marketing is, the strategy is in its implementation phase, and the funding that it takes to, the cash flow rather, that it takes to really put out the marketing campaign that I need to put out, it's like we are like moving into recessionary space at a rapid pace. So, when I think about all of the factors that went into my mind and like actually going after this contract, it's like that's because I'm paying attention to what's going on in the world. I see what's happening. And, we got to make sure that you stay ready so you ain't got to get ready. I practice what I preach. So
Hmm.
in times that, airfare, the ticket's going to be going through the roof and gas going to be at an all-time premium and all of these things, I'll be traveling on the dime of the clients and the company and reinvesting back into the growth and expansion of Bullseye Consulting so that I'll be able to like firmly stand on my own 2 feet as the world is doing what it's doing. And on the other side of it, exactly what we've been talking about on this show from the very beginning becomes the reality, because leveraging what we know about what's going on. So to that point, 30,000 Oracle workers laid off via an email. 30,000 people at 6 o'clock in the morning received an email saying, thank you for your services. You don't need to report in today. This economy is, what has been traditionally coined job security. We saw last year the most secure jobs, government jobs, got cut at a rapid clip. Done. Just like that. And if that was supposed to be the most secure job demographic, and we've been watching companies continue to lay off, and we spoke about the 92,000 jobs that were lost last month rather. So the writing ain't on the wall. It's screaming. Like, so if understanding that job security at this particular stage of the game is not quite guaranteed, then doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on investing in self becomes, again, that much more of an essential thing in life, an essential priority. We've spoken about it here, and we're going to keep on talking about it because it is important that everybody is investing in themselves, like making themselves the best version of themselves to be able to produce for themselves, to create your own. You become your own enterprise based on the value that you provide to the ecosystem. If you just leeching off of the system, this system going to really abuse you, because all of the government assistance, that stuff is being cut at a rapid clip as well. The wealth gap just got a disrespectful hole blown into it that's expanding. So, like, again, investing in becoming the best version of yourself and the value that you can bring to the ecosystem at large. Like, how do you provide value? Like, everybody has to be asking themselves, how do you provide value? How can I sharpen my ability to solve a problem that we have in society? Like, what can I do to be a plus to the situation as opposed to the latter? Because, again, where this world is going, if you on the latter side, you're going to get drowned.
Brother, you smoking that mic like it's on fire. You, I hope they're hearing you. You know, as you're talking, it made me think about another book. It's a book called To Sell Is Human by Daniel Pink. Amazing book. And it pretty much shows you how the evolution of our societies came from the human drive to sell, and sell started off as trade. So it's a really, really powerful piece. But one of the things that I've always taken from this book, he says there are only two positions in this world. You either sell a product or service, or you work in one of the back end processes of keeping these products and services being sold. That's it. Everybody is in sales. Now you get to decide how much you get paid. When you directly sell the thing, you normally get paid more. If you own the company where you sell the thing, we're talking about profits, and profits are definitely better than wages. Shout out to the Church of Jim Rohn. Now, look, as you're on this journey to better oneself, we talked about it 2 episodes ago on the process of expanding oneself through personal development. You want to get better at speaking? Read 5 books on speaking, practice speaking. Anytime you read 5 books, you're going to know more about that one subject than 99% of the entire world. And that's the definition of an expert. Now, you're going to go change your Facebook to speaking expert after reading 5 books? Probably not. But you have built your skill, and especially if that's your weakness. If speaking was your weakness and you were amazing at everything else and you got 50% better at speaking, that doesn't mean your value went up 50%. Your value might have went up 1,000%, because now you have the ability to carry a message, and people who can do that never look for work. They look at their calendar because they're always booked out.
Absolutely. So another piece that is important to just contextually understand how the ripple effects. So our president never ceases to amaze. Like, literally on Easter Sunday, he truths out because of his Truth Social deal. He says, Tuesday will be Power Plant Day and Bridge Day, all wrapped up in one in Iran. There will be nothing like it. Exclamation, exclamation, exclamation. Open the fucking strait, you crazy bastards, or you'll be living in hell. Just watch. Exclamation, exclamation. Praise be to Allah. President DJT. On Easter. All right. So that is a proactive, and we've spoken about it here. We're going to continue to speak about it because facts don't stop being facts just because people are doing what they're doing. That is a proactive declaration of a war crime, period. To intentionally target civilian infrastructure, utilities, is a war crime by any stretch. And there's no getting around that. So the president of the United States is telling the world that the United States is about to commit war crimes. So we can't just let that, just go past folks' heads. So like, I'm just going to be real explicit about it. So that's issue number one. Point number two, Iran has said, when y'all do that, we're going to hit all of our neighbors. And they released a whole list of corporations in the area that can expect a visit by a missile or a drone. Major companies on the S&P 500, like the Magnificent Seven mentioned on the list. These are the companies that drive the economy. That's point two, that the Iranians have said that it's going to be a massive response. And based on what they have demonstrated up until this point, like even shooting down F-35 fighter jet, they have demonstrated capability. Mm-hmm. So what that means is when that happens, the whole situation changes into a whole different dynamic that we all about to watch play out. But we've already felt a small pinch of the ripple effect. That ripple effect is going to be something different. So if these war crimes that the president has said are going to happen actually happen, then that's going to turn into a whole different type of situation. So I don't say that to be evoking no fear. I say that to stimulate awareness of what all of this means. Now, the third component of this is, so for one, like that's a war crime. The United States has still yet to declare war on Iran through all of the kind of congressional manipulation and all of that stuff that's going on. Mm-hmm. When we are setting the precedent that it is okay to attack utility infrastructure, we are setting ourselves up to see the same kind of situation happen to us. So just to provide a little bit of context to what we're looking at here.
The CCP's dangerous actions, China's multi-pronged assault on our national and economic security, make it the defining threat of our generation. There has been far too little public focus on the fact that PRC hackers are targeting our critical infrastructure, our water treatment plants, our electrical grid, our oil and natural gas pipelines, our transportation systems, and the risk that poses to every American requires our attention now. China's hackers are positioning on American infrastructure in preparation to wreak havoc and cause real-world harm to American citizens and communities if and when China decides the time has come to strike.
That is, as you can see, the former FBI director testifying to Congress that the Chinese have hacked into our infrastructure and are regularly attacking it. Now, tying all of that together, we spoke about a few weeks ago where the Iranians are charging $2 million for vessels that from countries that they don't really rock with like that to make it through the Strait of Hormuz, and they're requiring that it be paid in yuan, the Chinese currency. So while that's happening, the Chinese are surrounding Taiwan, threatening to do whatever that they decide to do with Taiwan. Iran and China obviously have a relationship with each other. The same way that the United States, through proxy, drained a lot of Russia's resources via Ukraine by, fighting a proxy war in the sense of providing all of these military assets to Ukraine so that Russia would continue to have to expend its resources. So it just depletes them as a military force over time. You just grind them down and grind them down and grind them down. And that's what's been happening for the past 5 years. The United States has primarily been funding Ukraine to just grind down over time the war capabilities of the Russians. Well, now the Chinese and the Russians have the same opportunity to do that to us, the United States. So if the Chinese decide to go after Taiwan and they decide to just leak a little bit of information, because we would be fools to not think that there aren't Iranians 24/7 trying to hack into our systems, because they are some smart folks. Like, you can see the way that they bombs on targets.
They've been ready for a long time.
To this day, yeah, bombs on targets. They not playing. So the hacking, I would imagine they got hacking farms going on over there trying to get into our infrastructure. What happens if the Chinese give them a little tip? The same way that the Russians been supplying them with information on where our troops are located in the Middle East and where our assets are in the Middle East, which have then resulted in ballistic missiles and drones being sent to destroy that equipment and to harm our folks. This is what's happening. So when we open up Pandora's box of sanctioning war crimes, it opens us up to the same vulnerabilities. So the reason that I went through all of that is because when we start talking about voting our elected officials and our responsibility as civilians, we are the power in this country when we choose to be it. The way that the infrastructure is designed is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, and there's a lot of opportunity to improve it. The idea of just completely overhauling it all in one shot without having a plan, that is the equivalent of what we're watching in Iran right now. That doesn't make sense. So if we know that the system is not working the way that we would like to see it working, then how about if we read the rule books, the rule book, like it's published. Civics is a thing. Like it's not a new concept. The office of citizen has always been the office of citizen, just like the office of mayor or city council or state rep or what have you. All of those positions are clearly defined. So how about we brush off the dust on our little civic handbook and understand our responsibility as citizens of this country and vote as an informed populace that is then ready to hold the elected officials accountable. No, it sounds like a wild idea. I know it sounds like a wild idea, but
go ahead, brother.
No, please go ahead.
We've said it many times on this podcast. A lot of problems have always stemmed historically speaking, from not holding our own parties accountable to morals, to ethics, and to taking the high road, to high levels of leadership and empathy and strategy. The type of logic that we apply to teams where you're at a basketball game, you're rooting for the blue team. You've been blue team your whole life. You see the ref making some bad calls, but it's in your favor. Yeah, we deserve it. The red team feels the exact same way. When we're talking about sports, it's fine because we're talking about wins and losses in a game. For the most part, it doesn't turn into a huge international fiasco. Sometimes it can if it's on the Olympic stage. But when we apply that same type of mentality to our political hygiene, the ramifications are insane and they hurt people by the dozens deeply over and over and over again. I don't know how many times we can say it, but healthy communities have healthy citizens and happy citizens and strong GDP. And we see crime go down and we see innovation happen. It is usually very difficult to create something brilliant when you don't have the time to, if you're working two or three jobs, or if you're constantly so stressed about how am I going to pay the bills? How am I going to deal with my anxiety? When people live in that space, all of their energy is getting used on survival instead of creation. And that has to be the biggest travesty that we have in our society. So we have to do that. And when I say we, I'm talking about me. I'm talking about you're hanging out with your friends, your family, your closest people, your confidants. They do something that we all know is not okay, and you don't just let it slide. I'm not saying you have to go crazy, but what you need to do is check them in a way that makes sense. So it's like, oh yeah, that's not how we talk. That's not how we get down. That's not the energy that we carry around here. Hey, bro, I hear you, but the way you delivered that, you're bigger than that, and we're better than that. It's so simple to do the uncomfortable thing real quick. And that's going to stick in that person's mind. And guess what? You might have inspired them to do the exact same thing. There's all these books popping up in my head today. There's another book that's called Failure is Never Final, Success is for Forever, where something can seem like it's a failure in that finite moment. However, the knowledge that you gain from that experience can be the most enriching thing that ever happened to you in your entire life. And when we're talking about success, when we're talking about making a positive impact for other people, that is ever going, and you will never see the end. There's a great guy. He's a motivational speaker. He does all this stuff. He's an amazing athlete. I used to train with him at D1. And one day he came up to me and he said, "You know, Earl, you will never outlive your legacy." And he's like, your earlness and how you live your life and your intentionality is going to touch people that you will never get to meet. I hope you can conceptualize that. And I hope that once you conceptualize it, that you amplify it and make it 1,000 times bigger than what you think it is.
Bars. So really, when we think about a healthy ecosystem, I focus on the business side so heavily because small businesses employ and empower the community that they live in. You know, it's you actually paying folks, and those folks are spending their money in the community, and it just creates a healthy, as opposed to like the big box businesses. A lot of that money just kind of leaves the community as soon as it's spent there. Whereas when you got a healthy small business ecosystem, it stays in the community, and you know, we all support each other. And then by understanding how taxation works, then you have other options that you can explore, rather it be investing into nonprofits or getting involved with politics, because that piece matters as well. So I was talking with one of my partners this week, and he put it down real clean on some, like, get us the information on what's coming. You know what I mean? Like, that's the game. Like, what's coming down the road? That's what we need to be thinking about. So an example of that is here in Colorado, the powers that be that track all of the trends and knew that legal marijuana was going to be passed at, they knew when it was going to actually pass based on all of the numbers. So then it's like, all right, we can't slow this down no more. It's going to happen at this time. So let's say it's going to happen in 2.5 years. Well, then the people that have that information of when the law is going to come into play, they then go tell all of their people, all right, so in 2.5 years, this new industry is coming. You need to get X, Y, and Z met as criteria, so that as soon as the law is the ink is dry, or the ink ain't even got to be dry yet, you ready to run it up. And that's exactly what happened. So people that were in lucrative industries prior to took capital, what I mentioned earlier, cash is king. When you have the capital, you can deploy it accordingly. So they get this information 2.5 years in advance, insider trading information, and they pull capital from this place and plug it over here to meet the criteria, so that as soon as the law is official, they running. And then the common person finds out when it hits, because they don't have that information. So to take some of the winnings from having a scalable, sustainable business with appreciating market value, to invest in relationships with the folks that are in those rooms that can give you that information up front, because that is how the game works. We can get upset that it's immoral or have judgment on it or what have you. That's not going to change the game from being the game. So if that is the game, then what are we going to do about that? Are we just going to complain, or are we going to participate? We going to play, or we going to be played?
Shoot or shoot.
What it come down to?
Shoot or shoot. In this game, I love the way that you just explained that. A lot of times I explain to people the game of money is as such. Imagine if you never learned the real rules of money. You only know the Dave Ramsey. That's all you know. That's equivalent to playing basketball. What if hyperwealth went by the rules of playing golf? Completely different scoring systems, right? In basketball, you want to score as many points as possible because that's the only way you can win. In golf, you want to have the lowest score possible because that's how you win. So we got to make sure we're operating on the right paradigm. And then once we have the information, we have to act. Period. Everybody's got ideas. Everybody's got information. What can you execute on today? This hour. I always tell people now, like I have so many referral partners that will send me someone that needs help with taxes, a trust, their retirement, whatever the case may be. Maybe they need business funding, whatever the deal is. And they're like, okay, I think I could do a meeting in 2 weeks. And I'm like, hey, I'm a big believer in now. That's no opportunities wasted. What are you doing in 15 minutes? And they'll just smile. They'll go, ha ha, I like it. I'm free. Then why were we talking about 2 weeks from now? Let's find out if we are matched for each other right now. And if we are, let's get stuff done right now. You never know. You are one contact away from changing your business and changing your life. And that kind of leads me into I wanted to talk about networking. I wanted to talk about making strategic partnerships. You guys got to start finding people who have businesses that complement your business. This podcast is a perfect example of that. The people that Jesse are working with, he helps them scale their businesses to a point where they have a tax problem. I help them with their tax problem. And that creates more capital for Jesse to do even more for the person. If he wanted to go and do like a super crazy marketing plan, let's say they had a plan where they wanted to exit. All right, we're going to run these numbers up because now this whole marketing plan is coming from tax saved dollars. Plug it in, go get crazy with it. Also, when I come across plenty of people that have a tax problem, they're like, this is awesome. Hey, can you help me out with this? Because I'm looking at my cost of goods and I'm like, hey, put the Mayweather shoulder up on him. Hey, don't you use that language in this house. Look, I got a partner who's incredible with that. He can get into all your KPIs. I don't touch none of that. Nathaniel Jones, Nathan. And then I'm able to pass him a client who's intelligent, who's hungry, and who wants to scale their business even more. And they're doing it without any fear of further tax ramifications. This is a perfect partnership. I encourage you guys to go out and do the same thing. Find referral partnerships. Find and learn how to network the right way. One of the best things I can tell you when you go and network is do not be presentation man, nice and stiff, where someone says, hey, how are you? I'm doing incredible. Do you know how incredible I'm doing? My company. And you go into presentation mode? No. No, that's why invitation and presentation are two different words. They're two different things. Just like when you're meeting someone and when you're doing a discovery call or a presentation or a sales look, whatever you call it in your process. Notice how those are two different things? Meet the person. Come to them with some genuine energy. See if there is chemistry there for you to build upon. And then here's the biggest game I can give you. Ask a bunch of questions. Don't talk about you. Ask them questions. If you're a business professional like myself, most of my calls are asking questions all day long. I'm not talking about myself. I'm not talking about my family. I'm not talking about my business. I'm collecting data so I can see A, if this person's qualified to work with me, and then B, when they are, how many different ways can I enhance their life? So I'm asking all these questions. I'm getting their mindset. I'm learning their risk tolerance, all these different factors. And then the person ends up liking me so much because they're like, wow, no one asked me that. Why I started this business? Wow, no one's ever asked me that before. Next thing you know, you got grandma's recipe. You got all the information you need. And then guess what's going to happen because they like you? So what do you do again? Can you expand on how your business works? I would love to sit down with you. Look, let me take your card. Let's set up a meeting. Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays are great for me. What about you? You know what? I'm booked out all the time, but busy people make the world go around. I'll make it happen. So how about I move this over on Tuesday and we link up and get some coffee? They're like, I'm buying. That is how you sell something before you sell something. They are already so excited just to be around you and be in your energy because you sell yourself first, you sell your product or service second. That's key. When you're at like a big networking event, take a picture with someone after you get their phone number. Hey, I'm going to take a picture with you because we stunting. We look like two bosses, and I don't want you to forget this face because you're going to see it all over. Okay, cool. Now it's so easy for you when you get a text from Joe the plumber. Oh, that dude, the dude with the crazy mustache. It's so much easier to remember. And then also when they remember you, they are 80% more likely to text you back and answer your phone calls. That's major. It doesn't take a long time for you to build a big network. I've gone into brand new cities and I got 10 phone numbers every single day. And now every time I go to those cities, people swear I grew up there. They're like, didn't you go to middle school with so and so? And I'm like, I hear that a lot. Ha ha. And keep it pushing. But it really is that simple. And that's how I started when I was doing direct sales. I was selling a product that was not my age group. I was 18 years old selling fine cutlery. How many 18-year-olds want that? None of the ones that you want to hang out with, unless they're in culinary school. Outside of that, anyone super obsessed with knives probably don't want to kick it with them, right? So what could I do? I got to a couple of my friends' parents, and then from there I got referrals, and then from those referrals I got referrals. Anytime I saw someone that looked sharp and I liked their energy, man, I love those shoes. They look great on you. Are those new? Okay, I'm trying to get my wardrobe together, and when I see something I like, I ask about it. You're also dressed really nice. My parents always told me when you see someone successful, ask them what they do. What do you do? They start telling me stuff. And I'm like, well, look, I help families stay together, enjoy life more by saving money. How do you do that? I work with one of the best cutlery companies in the world, and we have a forever guarantee. I'll come over your house, we'll make some dinner. It'll be a good time, a bunch of laughs. Okay, boom. And then I just did that over and over and over and over and over again. And sometimes it takes 20 of those conversations to get 10 phone numbers that I like, because I'm not counting a phone number from someone that I didn't connect with. I'm not counting a phone number from someone where we don't have chemistry. I'm not counting a phone number from someone who, look, we all go through different phases in life, so I'm not judging anybody. But if I'm selling $4,000 knife sets and somebody is just beat down, probably not the most qualified person. Do we judge a book by its cover? No, because a lot of times my biggest sales were in trailer parks. Because different people have different lifestyles and different people like to spend money differently. But what I'm telling you guys is that you can really get after it in a very short period of time. Build a entire new market of people that you could market anything to. And that's what I've done. I left the cutlery company and I did something and I marketed to the same people. And then I did something different and did something different and did something different. And now I'm at the point where, I clearly advertise what I do and how I help people. I get messages all the time. Hey, I don't know what you're doing, but I feel like you could help me. Can I get on your calendar? Sure. And then we start talking and it's a whole bunch of stuff I can help them with, or I can refer them to one of my great partners like Jesse. Guys, it's not rocket science to be able to go out here and build a really thriving business with low funds. Everything that I just told you that you could go do, low funds. Go into a networking event, buy a $4 drink, give a $2 tip. That's $6. Bang, work the room. Every time you go to the store, look for people that you like their energy. Say hello to people, anybody that's within a 3-foot radius of you. And what you're going to learn is a lot of people think they're an introvert, but they're not. They're just people that internally spend all their energy because you're thinking about what others are thinking about you. And once you get out of that cycle and you're just experience the world as it is, you find out like, dang, I'm not even an introvert. I just don't like crappy people. Exactly. Nobody likes crappy people. So, I hope I delivered some real value for you guys to get out here and really grow your network, because your network ends up being your net worth.
Right. So I wanted to introduce a new segment.
Some shit just cringeworthy. Ain't even gotta be deep, I guess.
Some things like it's nothing to be like going crazy about, but it's just cringe. You know what I mean? Well, when I found out that the president is getting ready to put his name on dollar bills that are being printed, did you hear about that?
I sure did.
It's just like, it ain't that deep. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not about to trip over it, but it's just cringeworthy. You know what I mean? So I wanted to mention that, because when I think about the effect that had on the election, when he got reelected, because people remembered, which the whole story behind it, when the stimulus checks hit the market, he was against it. Like the Democrats passed it in the House, and then he just signed it, because if he would have vetoed it, that would have been. But he was against it, and once he did sign it, he delayed the payments, making it into people's accounts, because he wanted his signature on every check. And I remember when it was happening, it was like, yo, that is nuts. Like, people's money is really being delayed because of this novelty play that he's running. Like, I remember thinking that.
Uh-huh.
And then to watch it play out in the election, where people remembered his name being on the check. And, like, people voted for him because, like, when times were hard, he gave me money. This is like, and now his money is, his name is, his signature about to be on the money. It's just cringeworthy.
Just cringe. I couldn't agree more, man. It's wild times. Someone who could talk all day, every day. I'm speechless. I'm speechless.
Oh, man. But on a much more brighter note, I got to give a shout out to our Air Force PJs, because when that F-35 got shot down and we had 2 pilots in enemy terrain, like hot war zone, we sent our professionals in there and they did their fucking job. And I mean, they always do. You know, it's when you see those guys downrange, well, in a deployed setting, because I've been in Iraq and Afghanistan where, like, when you see those guys pull up, you know what I'm saying? Like, they are really out there getting it in. You know, like, I'm working in the top and coordinating things that are happening. They are out there doing God's work, bruh. Like, so to really, really salute them brothers, man, and sisters, that are our brothers and sisters in arms. That's when things go wrong, you got some folks that can really get in there and clean it up. And our Air Force PJs are that group of magnificent individuals. Salute.
Job well done. We appreciate y'all. And just know, I know it doesn't have to be said, but I'm gonna say it anyways. Our coverage of this ongoing conflict is not a correlation to not loving our country or loving the many brave men and women that make up the United States military. Don't get it twisted.